What's going on, everybody, and welcome to the Word on Woodward presented by Rehmann. Empower your purpose with Rehmann. We are here every Tuesday and Thursday from 12 to 2. Make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on your live notifications so you don't miss a single second of the Word on Woodward. We have a very busy show for you guys today, but I have a few things that I want to remind you about before we get into it. First of all, there's a live stream of the inter-squad scrimmage coming live from Comerica Park, and it will be, actually, it's not a live stream. It's on Fox Sports Detroit tonight, you guys, starting at 6:30. How exciting. We're going to be able to watch some live baseball on FSD. Matt Shepard will be calling that game. So he'll be alongside Gibby. He'll be alongside Dan Petrie. It'll be great. The whole crew will be back again. That is tonight at 6:30 p.m. And the other piece of news that I wanted to remind you guys about is that there will also be a Tigers virtual happy hour presented by Miller Lite on Monday at 6 p.m. Dan Dickerson, Matt Shepard, and Jason Beck are going to break down that upcoming 60-game schedule for you. And from what I hear, they're going to have some special guests joining them throughout the happy hour. So you guys are definitely going to want to tune into that. There will be more details on Tigers social media. And as I mentioned, we've got another jam-packed show for you guys today. We're going to have Ken Kale joining us, interviews with Tigers outfielder Kristen Stewart, WXYZ's Justin Rose, MLB.com's Jason Beck, and Tigers 2019 top pick Riley Greene is going to join Art for the headliner. One more thing to remind you guys about is that if you have any questions or comments throughout today's show on whatever platform you are watching, make sure you drop it in the comment section, and we're going to try to get to it throughout the show today. But we can't even get the show going without Art Regner. So how about I bring in Art today? Art, how you doing today?
Well, very, very thankful that I'm here. I don't know. I guess there's power outages all over Livonia, and I had some computer snafus, but I'm here, and I did something different today. I decided to actually shower and shave, wash my hair before the show. I usually do it the night before, but because I was in such a panic to try to get on the air. My hair is, just all over the place. So I'm ready for the Word on Woodward right now. I mean, I swear, Daniela, I did not think that I was going to make it. And so I'm here. I'm pleased. I thank the Lord above. So let's get going. I'm excited.
That's good to hear, Art. I'm glad to see you too. Trust me, I was worried there for a second as well. And your hair looks good. I just got to let you know that. I like it long.
Yeah.
I've been telling you that ever since you haven't been with the haircut.
It is really long. I mean, it's, in the back. I might be able to even have a ponytail or something. But, one thing I have learned about hair as you get older is that at one time I used to have really long hair. I mean, down to shoulder length about here. But as it got longer, it would poof out, it would go big. But now as I've gotten older, it's just long and straight, and except for the cowlicks in the front here, it's very odd. Aging is my mother always told me, Arthur, getting old sucks, and sometimes she was almost a prophet, because it's just weird. I mean, it's just let's just get on with the show. I'm gonna have hair issues all show, and it's bugging me.
All right, Art, we will get on with the show then. Let's get into the big three presented by our friends at Chevy. And we know that the Tigers are in full swing. And I mentioned that we're going to have an inter-squad game on Fox Sports Detroit tonight. It's been great to see the Tigers out there, and we are going to have updates for you leading up to opening day and probably past that too. But right now, let's throw to Carly, who is at Comerica Park.
Thanks. I'm here at Comerica Park on this rainy Thursday for 2020 summer camp. The Tigers had an inter-squad scrimmage last night. Ron Gardenhire spoke to the media afterwards, and here are some takeaways. Throughout Comerica Park, they had recorded crowd prompts playing to give the players a good game feel under the lights. Ron Gardenhire said he loved it, was smiling in the dugout, says he's not a fan of the silence. Noticeably missing was Jacoby Jones. He's day-to-day with a sore oblique. And of course, Gardy was asked about Greene, Riley Greene that is, who made another impressive catch, a diving catch, followed by an opposite field home run. On Greene, Gardy says he's very exciting to watch and says he could be and looks like a, quote, Gold Glover. Big words coming out of the manager's mouth for a young player like Greene. On to center fielder Derek Hill. Gardy says he's very impressive and looks good defensively. He needs to work on being more productive offensively. He needs to work on his swing, but he is a talented and confident player. More notable news from last night. The Tigers added right-hand pitchers Zach Hess and Alex Lang to the 60-man pool. They should be here at Comerica Park today, so look out for them. Also today, another inter-squad scrimmage that Gardy says is really gearing these guys up for the regular season that begins next week against the Cincinnati Reds. So that should start around 6:40 p.m. Stay tuned into Tiger social media platforms for more coverage on that. It's all I have for now. Back to you.
Thank you, Carly. Carly had a lot of great points right there. But one other thing that I did want to touch on was Matt Boyd's performance last night. I know we've talked about the fact that he is the probable opening day starter, but do you think his performance last night solidified that?
Yeah, I thought it was great. I mean, Grayson Greiner hit an opposite field home run against him. That was the only blemish on his record. I mean, he looks great. He couldn't pitch. A real interesting story. He had a kind of a run-in with COVID-19 on Tuesday where he missed his scheduled workout. And is he going to pitch? So what he's going to end up doing, because he talked to Double D and Matt Shepard after he was done pitching last night. I watched the entire telecast, and Boyd said that he's going to pitch on 3 days rest. He's going to pitch on Sunday, and then he'll be ready for Friday's season opener against the Cincinnati Reds. So he looked great. He has a great command of his pitches. You can tell, and I know we've had him on the Word on Woodward before. He really worked out. He kept working on his craft. He did as much as he could. I think he even gave a little secret that he was even able to work out at some local area ball fields or something during the shutdown. So, he looked really good. Another thing that I found really interesting, and I think fans will enjoy, and you're going to hear it tonight. First of all, they had umpires last night, or they had umpires for like the first 7 innings, and then I guess the umpires said, hey, we don't even have a contract. Are we even getting paid for this? So they walked off. I don't know why they walked off, but they were done after about 7 innings. But they piped in crowd noise, and they piped in sound during the game. And I have to tell you, I was not a big fan of that. I figured, you can't manufacture that. I thought it came off really, really well. And, and Double D and Matt Shepard were having a great time with it, saying, well, it's a big rally. The crowd's going to go crazy here because obviously the stands are open or are empty, pardon me, but it sounds like there's people there. So it was a very enjoyable telecast. Riley Greene is a stud. He is going to be a star. Unleash the Torque. Torque played third, made some nice plays, and he also got a single. I think it was his first major league hit because Jody Mercer kept the ball. I mean, I know it was an inter-squad game, but they were again joking around. Did they keep the ball because it was his first big league hit? But Torque got a hit, and Derek Hill made some great catches, and Candelario had 2 doubles, and one he really hustled out. So, I mean, things are starting to look good, and I really think the big story, and I know we'll talk to Jason Beck and everybody about it, but Jeimer Candelario, I think, might finally be kind of blossoming into the player that he just looks, he looks like a major league ball player. So, so a lot of good things happened last night. Great telecast, too. Truly enjoyed it. They had a few graphics, and I know that Dan Dickerson and Matt Shepard were trying to get the wave going last night. It's really tough to do in an empty stadium, so we'll see if they're successful tonight.
They could make that happen, then they really are the magic men that we think they are. We're going to have to test them on that.
No doubt.
Let's talk a little NHL here, Art. I promise we're going to get back to that Tiger stuff. As you mentioned, Jason Beck is going to join us later in the show when we will talk to him. But the Nhl Award finalists are starting to come out. And as you mentioned on Tuesday, Art, the Ted Lindsay Award is out. The finalists for the Ted Lindsay Award are Leon Draisaitl, Nathan MacKinnon, and Artemi Panarin of the New York Rangers. And then the Jack Adams Award was also released, and it's Bruce Cassidy, John Tortorella of the Columbus Blue Jackets, and then Alain Vigneault, and he's from Philadelphia, in the Calder Memorial Cup. We have talked about this one a little bit too, which is the Rookie of the Year, Quinn Hughes, Dominic Kubalik out of Chicago, who we really haven't talked about because we've kind of said Cale Makar or Quinn Hughes, Cale Makar being the third finalist for that Calder Memorial Trophy. Art, when you look at these three guys, let's start here since we're looking at it. Quinn Hughes is out of Michigan. Like I said, we haven't really mentioned Dominic Kubelik, but do you think, obviously he's a finalist, so he had a great season, but is his name in the running there? Because like I said, we've been comparing Quinn Hughes and Cale Makar since we've been talking about it.
Well, I mean, there has to be three. Kubelik has no chance. He's not going to win it. It's going down to Hughes and Makar. So Kubelik, hey, hopefully you got a performance bonus and you get a little bit of cash for being a finalist or something for the Calder for the Rookie of the Year. But it's coming down to Quinn Hughes and Makar. Obviously I'm not objective about this because I certainly do want Quinn Hughes to win it. He's originally from Florida. His family moved up here to Michigan. I think they, live on the west side here in Detroit. He played for Michigan. Obviously, his brother's Jack Hughes, who is a Devil, which is kind of weird because Jack Hughes, you would think, because Jack Hughes played this year, obviously kind of a tough rookie year for him, but his brother is the Rookie of the Year candidate, Quinn, who is a really good player. So I think probably Cale Makar is going to win this, but I think it's going to be really, really close. And I want to say something about the Jack Adams Award too, because that is for the Coach of the Year. And if you look at it, Bruce Cassidy is a former Grand Rapids Griffins head coach. He coached for him. John Tortorella, he's alienated so many people. I don't know how he's going to win it, although he is an excellent coach. Alain Vigneault, great coach with Montreal. He's just, he's a proven winner. But I think Vigneault's going to win it because Philadelphia had a good year. Not that they're not a bad club, but I think they were a little bit better. I mean, they're one of the four, guys that are four teams that don't have to play. They're playing that play-in round. They don't have the, best 3 out of 5. They're not in the first round of the Stanley Cup playoffs. So I think he's probably going to end up winning that. But Bruce Cassidy, because he's Boston's coach, that's why, like Mike Babcock, Scotty Bowman, you would think that these guys are excellent coaches, which they are, that they would win more awards like this. But because they play on quote unquote a good team, they don't really get the accolades. It's like, well, geez, I could probably coach them. So the way I look at it, Bruce Cassidy, I'd love to see him win it. I think he's done a great job with the Bruins. The Bruins, they're a pretty interesting team. They're close on the cusp. I know, and I'm saying that he is a former Griffins coach, as I said, but Vigneault's probably going to win it when it's all said and done. But I really would like to see Bruce Cassidy do it because great coaches who coach very, very good and great teams don't get the credit I think that they sometimes deserve. Although all coaches always say, I need the roster, I need the players. But in this case, it'd be nice to see Cassidy win that.
All right, let's look at the Ted Lindsay Award now, which is the MVP of the league, for lack of a better term. You've got Leon Draisaitl of Edmonton, Nathan MacKinnon of Colorado, and Artemi Panarin of New York Rangers. Who's taking this one? Because I know there's, again, we've talked about Leon Draisaitl a lot, Nathan MacKinnon a lot, but Artemi Panarin had a really good season too. I think this could be tighter than people think.
Yeah, these are tough to figure out because you never know. Everyone tends to vote in blocks in these things. Somebody gets to be the flavor of the month in the NHL, much like the draft lottery system. They were probably sitting around having a few pops and said, "Wow, this sounds great. Why don't we do it?" Never really thought it out. So I think this is a tough one to predict because I think it's going to come down to MacKinnon and Draisaitl. I think that Draisaitl's going to win it. Because when Connor McDavid, by all accounts, the best player in the league, and when Connor McDavid went down, Edmonton didn't miss a beat. I think that Draisaitl's had a great year. I think that he's really come into his own. What happens is, and it's kind of funny, and I'm going to equate this story to Red Wing fans will appreciate it. When Steve went down, Sergei Fedorov had ended up being the MVP of the league. He stepped it up because their leader, Steve Yzerman, was out of the lineup. And I think Draisaitl did the same thing with MacKinnon. And that's difficult to do because all the eyes are on you. Everyone's looking at you. Edmonton's a high-profile team simply because, you think this draft lottery was bad. I mean, Edmonton kept getting the number 1 pick forever. It seemed like, Edmonton has like a minuscule chance of getting the number 1 pick. And there's Bill Daly again. And the number 1 pick goes to the Edmonton Oilers, So, but I'm serious. Look at it. I mean, they were getting number 1 picks like all over the place. I mean, they have more number 1 picks than the Red Wings have ever had, yeah, they were bad. But my point being is this: I think Draisaitl's going to win it. I think he had a lot of pressure on him. He led that club. He led Edmonton, and I think that he's definitely going to win the Lindsay Award, which is given out by the NHL Players Association. It's the players. This is why this is such an interesting award. The players vote on this, and I think they know. I think it's a real true award, and that's why I think Draisaitl's going to win it. But I think McKinnon's going to be a close second. And then, of course, the bread man. When you can sign a big contract for a New York-based team, in this case the Rangers, and come in and play well like he did, I mean, that really says something too. All 3 of them are great players. All 3 of them are deserving. But at the end of the day, Leon Draisaitl, Mo Seider's countryman from from Germany, and don't sleep on those German hockey players. Germany's still, when Germany puts their mind to it, Daniela, for good and bad, they really get the job done for all. They can be a pretty dominant force. So, and right now, thank God they've turned their attention to hockey. So, Draisaitl, Seider, Stützle is going to be a top 3 pick for sure. So we'll have to see. But Draisaitl wins it.
All right, we're going to go back to baseball for our third topic of today's Big 3. And Tigers opening day, Friday, July 24th, which is next Friday. We're just over a week away. I'm just getting really excited about this, Art. They're going to be broadcast on Fox Sports Detroit. Again, we talked about them doing the inter-squad game tonight, which will be amazing to see, refreshing to see them doing some live baseball. But can you just imagine what it's going to be like on that Tigers opening day? Everyone's going to be so excited. Although there won't be fans in the stands, I'd imagine Fox is going to give us everything they can for that one because they're going to be so excited to be back at Comerica Park. Or, I'm sorry, that one will be in Cincinnati, but they'll be in Comerica Park on the 27th. They'll just be happy to be back in the ballpark for a baseball game.
Well, I'll tell you what I have to do, just looking at that graphic, especially for the home opener on the 27th. I'm going to have to run out and get some ballpark franks because, I won't be able to go to the game, unfortunately. But, hey, I mean, let's face it, ballpark's presenting that, baby. And, that'll be great against the Kansas City Royals. We're only going to see them about 1 billion times this season. So it's always good to see the Royals and Tigers hook up. Yeah, I'm looking forward to the 24th. I'll tell you, last night, watching that inter-squad game, and I did watch the entire thing, and I took actually notes, Danielle. I took up like a bunch of I got my old reporter's notebook here, and I've got all kinds of observations that I made. It was cool. It was great. There's something about live sporting event. Nothing against the Korean Baseball League, but this was Major League players. I know it's the Tigers going against the Tigers, but next week. What is it? Tuesday and Wednesday, it'll be the Reds and exhibition games, and then they play for real. I guess my biggest fear right now, and I think everybody's, the elephant in the room is COVID-19. Hopefully that'll be controlled, and we'll be able to get a 60-game baseball season in. I'm really looking forward to it. I've got my ballpark franks, and I'm ready to go. Actually, Daniela.
Oh no!
I'm
nervous.
I have a hot dog. I have a hot dog maker. An old-fashioned hot dog maker. So yeah. It's like a toaster kind of thing. It's really weird, I'm not, So I'm ready to go. I got my hot dog maker. See, wait. See it? Can you see it? And it's red too. My favorite color. So I'm ready for the season. I am ready for the season. Give me my ballpark and let's play baseball. I have a crock pot right at my knee here too. This is a multi-purpose room. I have virtually everything in here. I never have to leave this room if it had a toilet. Let's put it that way, in a shower. So I've got everything in here.
Even the ballpark. You're bringing a piece of the ballpark to the room that you do the word on Woodward. I'm not even sure what room that is. I'm going to call it your office. All right.
That's technically, I call it the cat's room.
Oh, okay. Perfect. You're live from the cat's room. Awesome. Well, that wraps up the big three for today. I want to thank Chevy for presenting the big three here on the Word on Woodward. Chevy cares. That is why Chevy Clean dealers are committed to using enhanced vehicle cleaning measures with CDC approved cleansers before delivering your vehicle after purchase or service. When you're ready, you can find new roads with confidence. As I said, you guys, we've got a very jam-packed show for you guys. Jason Beck is going to join us later in the show. WXYZ's Justin Rose is going to join us to talk some Red Wings hockey. But right now, we're going to bring in another hockey guy. It's Ken Kale for the mailbag, delivered to you by Little Caesars. Ken, how are you doing today?
You know, I've seen it all with that hot dog making machine. I'm telling you. What I want to know, Art, is does it come with the mustard cups and the tongue depressors to put the mustard on? That's what I want to know.
You know what? No, Ken, you can send those to me. But what it does have, I don't know if you can tell by the picture, but you can also toast your buns. And I think, you know, and I know Daniela can attest to this. Toasty buns are delicious. So there you have it. So
you have to toast the bun.
Yep.
It's key. That is key.
So you can toast the bun, you can make your hot dogs, and they're like ballpark. I mean, ballpark franks are great. The only thing that's bad about this at times, you know how sometimes when you know, remember the old ballpark franks, they plump when you cook them? I think that's ballpark franks anyway. Sometimes they get a little too plumpy, and then you have to like burn your hands to get the stupid thing out, the hot dog out. But it is delicious, and it works. It really works.
Well, that's great to know, Art. We're going to get into our mailbag questions now, though. And Ken, this first one is for you, and it's Dan from Garden City. I like this question because we were talking about how the NHL is going to have an Olympic appearance in the coming years. But which Red Wing was the best team to represent, or was the best player to represent Team USA? Brett Hull, Chris Chelios, or Brian Rafalski?
Well, first and foremost, I want to say that I'm glad that the players are going to go back to the Olympics and play. And I think if you ask the player, they would tell you that one of the biggest disappointments was not being able to play in the Olympics and represent their country. I think it's great. I think that it should happen all the time whenever the Olympics are played, and the players should represent their countries, and we should have the best of the best performing in the Olympics. Now, with that said, those are all three great players. I mean, Brett Hull only played a couple of years here in Detroit. Chelios played a long time with the Red Wings, actually more years than he did with the Blackhawks. And Rafalski was a really solid blue liner and really a great, great hockey player back there on the blue line. But I think out of all three, I would have to pick Chris Chelios just because of the fact that when you think of Team USA, you always think of Chelios. He's the leader out there. He's played a lot of years in the National Hockey League. So to me, I think he is the most he's the guy that really most represents the United States. In my opinion, that's a former Red Wing.
Ken, as you said, it will be exciting for everybody to get back to the Olympics and have these players represent their countries on the Olympic stage. I think we're all really excited for that. I'm also really excited to hear Art's answer to this question because I'm glad we're talking about it on the show. This was great. Martin from Farmington asks, what do you think about this play from the Dodgers clubby Chico? They're going to work on grabbing that play right now, but it is something really cool here where the club the manager at the Dodgers, and he made a great play. They threw him in the game. Here we go. Watch this catch.
Well, I think number one, I think it's it's a great play. He made a great catch, kind of a basket catch, almost over the shoulder. He had a beat on it. It was a line drive. It was hit really, really hard. I know that he's the clubhouse guy, and the runner at first didn't tag up, so he actually got a double play on that. What I really find interesting, you say, well, geez, anything can happen in 2020. The Dodgers, they're playing against themselves in an inter-squad game. Great play, heads up. I think some of the young Tigers could learn. He hit the cutoff man. And good things happen. But you know what it kind of reminds me of, in a way, and I'm going to go back to hockey real quickly, is when David Ayers, the 42-year-old emergency backup goalie, came in for the Carolina Hurricanes in Toronto and won the game. And he's 42. This kid, he's the clubhouse kid, so he's obviously much younger. But, he has the presence of mind when given the opportunity, he makes a play. Ayers, he gave up a goal, like I think on the first shot or something, and everyone thought the floodgates were going to open in that game. It was on Hockey Night in Canada, and then all of a sudden, he becomes the I think he even won an ESPY award, David Ayers, or something for that. But that's a great story. Just like this, I give the kid all kinds of credit. I mean, look at that. He's got it lined up. He catches it. Maybe a major leaguer wouldn't have made it that dramatic, that catch. He hits the cutoff man, and boom, doubles the guy off at second. They're all laughing. This Dodger's completely embarrassed because he goes, "Isn't that the clubhouse guy that just doubled me off?" It's yeah, it is. He actually hit the cutoff man. He feels good. Lifelong memory. I really, really like it. I want to say something really quickly though about Ken's question. Chris Chelios, I believe, is the greatest born American hockey player ever. But on that list, and this is, I would have said Mike Modano, and for a couple of reasons. One, he's from Livonia, and two, he went to Franklin High School. So I would have said, and Modano didn't make the list, but Modano, I think without question, Chelios is the best American player ever. I think that Mike Modano is the second best American-born player ever. But I think when it's all said and done, Patrick Kane could end up being the best American hockey player ever until Dylan retires. And when I say Dylan, I mean Larkin.
All right, Ken, third question is for you. This one is going to go back to hockey. It's Lily from Auburn Hills, and she says, rumor has it that the Canucks are looking to move Brock Besser. Should the Wings be interested?
First and foremost, maybe Art, you can enlighten me on this because I don't know. Is he in the last year of his contract, or is he done at the end of this year? Do you know?
I think that he is on the last year of his rookie deal, the 3-year deal. I'm pretty sure that's what it is. So, so he's out of options. He could be maybe a restricted free agent from the way I understand it. I don't know why Vancouver would want to trade him. I know that I've seen, because now that, except for unfortunately the Red Wings and 6 other teams, everybody's doing press conferences now because they're all together getting ready for the playoffs. I mean, I think that I'm not, I don't understand this. I think the timing couldn't be any worse for Vancouver to get this out, or that we're shopping Brock Besser around, who obviously it looks like he's a pretty darn good goal scorer in this league, something that the Red Wings need. I don't know, Kenny, what do you think? You think that you think that Steve might abandon his philosophy of trying to give 1- and 2-year deals till the Red Wings are ready? And maybe try to sign Besser long term, because he's obviously a guy that they could use.
One of the things I've heard is that Vancouver is up against the cap, and they're going to have to start looking at who they can get rid of. And his name came out as a potential player that might be let go, or in other words, looking for a team that might want to trade with the Vancouver Canucks, and maybe a trade and then you sign him to a new deal. But he's a really good player. He had 16 goals last year, 29 assists for 45 points. And if you looked at his 2 previous years, before he played 9 games his first year, he came in, he's got 75 goals. He scored 20 goals in those second and third years in the National Hockey League, 16 last year. So 161 points in 3+ years. That's not bad. That's not too shabby at all for Brock Besser. And he's one of those guys who's a terrific hockey player, and certainly he could help out. But to answer your question, I guess it all depends on if you're going to trade, who you're going to give up. And the other thing is, if you sign him, now you're looking at something different. But I'll tell you what, he's a good solid hockey player. But I do not think that the Red Wings are going to sign anybody long term, at least not right now, until they can get into the playoffs. And then after that, they'll take a look at it.
Yeah, I agree with Ken. I mean, if there's another Canuck though that they would sign, and Ken's right, they're up against it. Jacob Markstram, the goaltender, is somebody else who's an unrestricted free agent. There are some rumors that he might be coming to Detroit. I would say that Vancouver has tough decisions to make. I would definitely sign Besser over Markstram. I just would. Just because he puts the puck in the net. I know goalie's the most important position, but Vancouver does have some decisions to make. I agree with Ken. I just don't think where the Red Wings are at right now, Brock Besser is a luxury almost that, I just don't think that they're going to put the resources behind. Jacob Markstram, who knows? They need a goalie. They being the Red Wings.
And you mentioned cap space as well. Would you take Brock Besser if it meant they were going to have to pair him? Because I know they have a couple long contracts as well. So if they had to take another player to alleviate some cap space, specifically maybe Louis Eriksson, I know he's got a huge contract with the Canucks. So if the Red Wings had to take both of them, do you think that's a possibility?
Well, anything's a possibility, but again, I just think that in listening to Steve Yzerman talk, he wants to build through the draft. And as Art mentioned, Daniela, you'd like to have these guys on your team, but with that comes a price too. And I think you have to stick to your guns. And I think Steve Yzerman knows what his game plan is, and that's to build through the draft, plug in players here and there by not giving them long-term deals until they're good enough to make the playoffs on a consistent basis. Then you might be able to sign some unrestricted free agents to, longer term than 2 or 3 years. And that way they can help you out. But, the plan that I hear Steve Yzerman talking about is they're going to take their time with this. They're going to do it the right way. They're going to build through the draft, and they're not going to spend a whole lot of money, and they're going to be under the cap. And what it is when you're under the cap is that you have wiggle room now. And in case, you somehow have a really good season, now the trade deadline comes, you can add, and it's not going to hurt you because you're not up against the cap.
All right, you guys, we're going to have some fun with the fourth question here, and I want both of you to answer. Art, we're going to start with you. Tim from Waterford asks, tomorrow is a National Tattoo Day. If you had to get a tattoo to represent the 2020 Tigers season, what would you get?
Well, it would be really, really tough. I mean, I probably would get a King's crown. A pointed King's crown, not a round one like the old LA Kings logo, an actual King's crown, and I would have Arthur on it. And also, going through the King's crown would be a bat with the Torque Man. So what I'm doing is I'm covering all my bases. Because I think, unleash the torque for sure, but I believe, and after what Ron Gardenhire said about him, I believe that Arthur Mize is definitely the king of the hill, is going to be on this team. I don't think you can, I don't know how you can look him in the face, and this is my own personal opinion, obviously, and say, Casey, you're going down to Toledo to throw against, other Tiger prospects. I think he's ready for the major leagues, and that's what I would get. My tattoo would be a crown with Arthur on it. And then unleashing in between the crown would be a guy like holding a bat, like kind of coming into his own. And that, of course, would be the Torque Man. I'd love to design that. I think actually I would patent that, because I think that would be without question a tattoo that virtually everybody in Detroit would want.
That's a really elaborate tattoo there, Art. I might have to try to come up with some drawings for you. Maybe our graphics design team can come up with something, and we'll have to show it on the next show.
Well, Daniela, if anybody knows about elaborate tattoos, it is you.
Oh, geez. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to have Ken answer this question. Ken, what tattoo would you get?
Well, first of all, I'm old school, and I don't have any tattoos, and I'm 62 years old. So if I put a tattoo on my arm in a couple of years, if I put it on my shoulder, it's going to be down to my elbow because of old age, and drooping skin and everything else. So I probably wouldn't get a tattoo, but if I had to, and if you guys, forced me into getting a tattoo, I was thinking too, the same thing with Art, not with the elaborate crown and everything else, but I like the Torque. Torque's going to be here for a long period of time. So my way of thinking that if I'm going to get a tattoo, I don't want a guy who's one and done, who's going to play 1 year and that's it. So I would have Torque on there, and then I would put a baseball bat and a ball underneath and the Old English D underneath. So I figure you can't go wrong with Torque. He's going to be around for a long, long time. And, 10 years from now, people will be all talking all about him, hopefully, and it'll be really good. But that would be my tattoo. What about yours, Daniela?
Okay. I know. Well, fun
Oh yeah.
fact.
Oh,
I do have a couple tattoos.
I know.
I have a couple tattoos, and one of them is an English D. So I already have an English D tattoo on my ankle. If I wasn't wearing pajama pants, I would show you guys, but I'm still in my pajamas because we're working from home, right?
There you go.
Oh, yeah,
It's
but
the
I
other
do have one.
tattoo.
So I think I'm ahead of the game on this question.
Ken, it's the other tattoo though. That is a beautiful tattoo.
I do have an elaborate tattoo. I do. And I'm going to leave it at that. So mystery for the rest of you of my other tattoos. Ken, thank you so much for joining us today. It's always great to have you, and we will definitely be having you back soon. But I do want to ask you this actually one more time. How excited are you for Tigers opening day? It's just over a week away now. Next Friday, we're going to have some real Tigers baseball.
I'm really excited about it. I think the players are excited too. And you can only take so much of playing, against inter-squad games, and you try to get the night games in there too, just to mix it up a little bit. But it's kind of like football, After a while, you want to go out and hit somebody, and I think the Tigers want to go out there and face different opposition. And again, I'm excited about this team because in a short season, and we talked about this before on the WOW show, that anything can happen. And if you get off to a really good start, it really puts the ball in your court, and you can control your own destiny. So, I really hope that the Tigers get off to a good start. Really looking forward to opening day, and I'm glad to see that baseball is back.
I think we all are, Ken. Thank you again for joining us, and a big thank you to Little Caesars for delivering the mailbag right here on the Word on Woodward. Little Caesars proudly introduces their hot and ready pepperoni cheeser. You get a large pizza topped with classic pepperoni, fresh mozzarella, and a toasted Parmesan and Asiago cheese crust for just $7. Try our no-contact pizza portal or delivery from Little Caesars. You guys, Art might have a hot dog maker at home, but I'm curious to see if he can come up with making a pepperoni cheeser. So Art, you have the hot dog maker. Your next mission is to be able to make a pepperoni cheeser at home. You guys, as we've been talking about, really exciting couple of weeks for the Tigers here as we lead up to that 60-game season. And Carly Johnston was joined by another Tiger for Catching Up with Carly.
That's right. It's time for Catching Up with Carly, presented by Meyer. And today I'm joined by Tigers outfielder Kristen Stewart. How's it going, Kristen?
Good. Going well. Thanks for having me.
Oh, of course. Thanks for being on. How excited are you to be back in the D?
Oh, wow. We're excited. I mean, it's a little different being here in Detroit for spring training, but, I mean, the weather's been good, and, I mean, no complaints.
All right. So you said the weather's been good. I've been born and raised in Michigan. I don't like the humid 90-degree weather, but you're from Atlanta. So how is the weather? Like, are you okay out there in the pants and the heat? How have you been doing out there?
Well, the humidity in Georgia is something different, to tell you the truth. But, I mean, it's been hot here. We've had some hot days, but, I mean, it's a lot better than being cold. I'll tell you that.
I kind of agree. I was at the ballpark sweating a bit, and I was like, I don't know how they're out on the field right now. What are some takeaways that you have from camp so far?
I mean, it's been going pretty well. I mean, everyone seemed to have done what they needed to do with the little break we had, and trying to train and stay in shape for when we did come back. And so, I mean, that's the biggest thing, just getting our feet wet again and getting ready to start this sprint of a season.
No kidding. So you had a longer off season than I'm sure you wanted. What did you do during that time outside of training and baseball? Did you do anything fun? Any hobbies that you acquired?
Yeah, so I mean, I just relaxed, honestly. I mean, the off season is the time for your body to recover and just, I mean, all the kinks you have throughout the season to take care of. But I mean, I just relaxed, try to recover, and I mean, I went fishing a good bit. Just try to relax that way. I just find it real calming, even though if I'm not catching anything. So. I mean, it was just good. Being able to stay at home with the animals. Got a dog and a cat, so I mean, it was good.
Love it. Are you the kind of person? I'm the kind of person. I have a dog and a cat. If someone asks me, are you a cat person or a dog person? I can't choose.
Well, I'm probably more a dog person, to tell you the truth. I mean, we got a golden doodle called Jax, but I mean, Liam's awesome too. I mean, he's pretty chill of a cat. Just sleep. So I mean, not much to do there.
Love it. Okay, something I noticed on your Instagram as well during the off season before quarantine in January, you got engaged. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. Yep. January 4th, I popped the question. And so it's been a fun ride ever since. I mean, we've just been trying to figure out different venues, and plus quarantine hit. So with that, everything kind of got pushed back. So we're going to start looking here again pretty soon.
A lot of things to maneuver through, I'm sure, during this planning
For
and
sure.
quarantine. So
Yep.
also on your Instagram, I wanted to comment on the fact that I appreciate you using your platform to bring awareness to social and racial injustice. Is that something, knowing you have so much diversity in baseball, is this something you feel like you need to use your platform to educate others?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, whatever I can do. I mean, I just try to. I mean, we linked up with the Players Alliance. The Players Alliance is a group of players, and we're just trying to use our voice to bring change and just educate people on different issues that are happening here in the U.S.
Change does need to happen. All right, so let's dive into baseball. Let's start from the beginning. How did you get into it? Did you always want to be a pro baseball player?
Well, growing up, you always had the dream of being a professional baseball player and playing in like a big league stadium and stuff like that. But at a young age, I was just having fun. I was just enjoyed playing the sport, found a love for it, and as I grew older, I just realized that I was pretty good at it and that I could go to college and play. And so around probably my eighth grade year is when I started to realize I was like a lot better than other kids out there. And so with that, I just trained and worked my butt off, just trying to improve my craft and just get where I wanted to go.
Well, it definitely worked off, because in the 2015 MLB draft, you were drafted by the Tigers in the first round. What was that moment like?
It was surreal. To tell you the truth, I wasn't even watching the draft. I was in my room watching Netflix because I kind of want to keep my mind off of it, because I had no idea where I was going to go, honestly. But as the draft was going on, I was just watching Netflix, chilling. Obviously, my parents were watching it because they were locked in on it. But yeah, when my name was called, I didn't even know. I just heard my mom scream, so I just knew my name had been called, and so I flipped it on. And yeah, it was just a great time, just with my family and brother there. And yeah, it was just kind of surreal, because I mean, all the sacrifices you made, all the sacrifices my parents made, taking me to and from hundreds of, if not thousands of games. Growing up, I mean, it was just nice to finally reach that goal of getting drafted and have an opportunity to play in the big leagues.
I love that. That's a great story. So, of your first few years in the organization, you played in the minors, and notably in 2016 and 17, back to back, you were named Tigers Minor League Player of the Year. Did you feel like in that time you were ready for the big leagues?
I mean, with with what I know now, the more you play, the more you mature. I mean, the better of an overall player you become. I mean, half the game's mental, and so dealing with that failure at this level, the success and failure of such a long season, because in college and you never played a season that long, and to be honest, you never, for me at least, I never really failed as much as I did until I got to professional baseball, because baseball is a failures game. So with that, you have to become more mature and have a stronger mental side to yourself. And I mean, that plays a huge part in where I'm at now.
Dang, that was a really good answer. I appreciate that. That was a well thought out answer. I appreciate that a lot. Well, the Tigers, they believed you were ready. I mean, September 2018, then you were called up and you made your major league debut as a pinch hitter. And then the next day, you made your first hit off of none other than Justin Verlander. I mean, how much of a coincidence was that? And how good did that feel to get your first hit out of the way?
Oh, it felt great. I mean, a little backstory to that. We were playing the Cardinals, and that's the game that I got pinch hit in the ninth. And Gardy brought me aside. He was like, "Yeah, I didn't start you because I wanted you to have your debut against Verlander." And so, yeah. So with that, I was like, "All right, well, he definitely wanted me to face the best." And so, yeah, it was pretty surreal getting that bat and getting that first hit out of the way, because I mean, I did not want to drag first hit and not get it for a while. So, I mean, it was just awesome. It was just a surreal feeling. I mean, I still remember everything about it. I mean, went through the 4-hole, Altuve dove for it, missed it. I mean, it was pretty awesome.
Okay, then speaking of hits, we have to mention, of course, your first major league home run against the Kansas City Royals, because you hit not just your first, but also your second home run in that game. You must have been on cloud 9, considering you also had 6 RBI in that game as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's a game I'll always remember. I mean, first big league home run, and I mean, had another one too. So, I mean, just having 2 in that game, just getting them out of the way. I mean, it was pretty surreal and just great because we won the game, and I mean, it was just pretty awesome. I mean, just a very surreal feeling. Sometimes hard to put into words because I mean, you're like you say, you're a little bit on cloud 9 when it's happening, and you kind of like black out, like when you're running the bases, and the next thing you know, you're back in the dugout, and everyone's giving you high fives and stuff like that. So it was pretty surreal.
Well, I mean, fast forward to 2019, your path led you to getting that starting left field job for the Tigers. What do you work at continuously? What is something that you every day go to the field and you say, this is something I need to get better at to make sure you win that position battle again?
Right, for sure. I mean, I focus, honestly, I have my routine that I go through every day, and that what I feel like gets me prepared for the day. I mean, getting prepared for the game. And so usually it'll start off going in the cages, getting my cage work in, and then during BP, going out there with Dave Clark and doing some outfield drills just to get me ready for the game. I mean, working on the start and stops, working on the jumps. And, yeah, I mean, that just plays huge dividends in me out there in the field and also me at the plate.
Love it. Okay, and I know last season wasn't exactly what you and the team wanted and the fans wanted, but looking forward to this shortened season now, do you think you guys have a chance to make it to the playoffs?
Oh, for sure. I mean, with the 60-game season, anything can happen. I mean, it's such a short season. I mean, you just have to get a little hot streak, and then you're definitely in it. So, I mean, we're all, as a team, really excited about this season to get it going and see where it goes, because this year we had a good amount of older veteran guys, some good free agent signs, so we're just all really excited to get this thing going.
Well, I'm excited too, as a fan and someone who works in the organization. And I know fans won't be at the games, which will be a little weird for you guys, but do you have a message for them?
Oh, well, we love you guys, and yeah, just send us your support and send us your love through the screen. I mean, we definitely appreciate it.
Awesome. Well, Kristen, can't wait to see you out on the field for the regular season. Best of luck to you, and thank you so much for joining me on Catching Up with Carly, presented by Meyer.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Carly. It was great to hear from Kristen Stewart, kind of catch up with him and see what his mindset is heading into this 60-game season. Right now, you guys, we're going to get into Bet You Didn't Know, presented by Motor City Casino Hotel. And today, for the first time in Bet You Didn't Know, I have all the questions, even though you guys are not going to be going against each other. But I have all the questions this time. Like, I'm excited about it because I can't lose. So this is great. Are you guys ready?
I think so.
I am definitely
Art,
ready.
you don't feel ready. Okay, good.
There we
All right,
go.
good. Just making sure.
I know.
So what
I'm
we're
ready.
gonna do today?
My hair's drying.
You have like the flow going on now, like a hockey player.
Yeah. I knew you two would appreciate
All
it.
right.
If I don't get a haircut soon, I'll be rivaling you in hair length.
Yes,
Probably.
definitely. My hair doesn't grow, so you'll definitely catch up to me. All right, we're gonna get into these now, guys.
Okay.
I'm gonna give you a few made-up betting lines here, okay? And I'm gonna have you guys pick the over/under. Our team put together some betting lines for the season, for the upcoming shortened season for the Tigers. So what I'm gonna do is give each of you an over/under, and you're gonna tell me which one it is and why. So Carly, we're gonna start with you, and we're gonna start talking about Matt Boyd here because he's the probable opening day pitcher. He's looking like the Tigers ace right now. And we're going to have you over under 80 strikeouts for Matt Boyd on the 60-game season.
Okay, so in a 60-game season, if he's in the starting rotation, if my math is right, that would be roughly 16 starts in this shortened season. So if everything goes as planned, obviously without injury. So I would say I'm going to go under 80 strikeouts. But if it was a regular season that we had coming up, I would definitely say over, because I know each season he has more strikeouts than his previous season. And I know he's been working his butt off in the offseason, which adds another piece to go with his dangerous slider. So I'm going to say under, just because of the shortened season, but I'm definitely excited to see what he's going to accomplish in this 60-game 2020 Tiger season.
All right, Art, the next one is for you, and this one's going to be about CJ Cron. Now, the Tigers signed Cron hoping to add some power to their lineup, so I'm interested to see what your answer is to this one. Art, over under for CJ Cron, 10 home runs.
I'm going definitely over. I think he'll hit 12 to 15. I think when you look at the lineup, he has Cabrera in there. Obviously, Jonathan Scope as well. He's had, like the stat just said, 25 home runs in 125 games. He's hit over 20 home runs the past 4 seasons. So he is a power hitter. I think on the Riley Greene catch that against CJ Cron, he kind of golfed the ball almost out of Comerica Park. So, I think he's a premier power hitter. And I think he's going to have it. I think that he will hit more than 10 home runs in 60 games. I think he's going to get a lot of pitches to see, a lot of pitches to hit. And I think that he will live up to the billing when the Tigers signed him in free agency as being a power hitter. I definitely go, 10's quite a few in 60 games. Don't get me wrong, but he'll have a couple of multi-home run games, which will help him out. I think he hits between 12 to 15 home runs this season for the Tigers.
I like it, Art. The Tigers are going to need him if they want to make a run at the playoffs into this season. Carly, Art mentioned Miguel Cabrera, our former Triple Crown winner. So we're going to focus on him for your next one. So Miguel Cabrera, is he going to have over or under 20 RBIs?
Oh, come on. Miggy getting 20 RBIs this season, I'm definitely saying over. Just look at his highlights. He looked great. He looked great in Lakeland at spring training, and then now in summer camp here in Detroit. When we have other big batters in the lineup as well, like CJ Cron, as you guys were just talking about, and Jonathan Scope, they could really help him out. Also, Cameron Maben could give Miggy more opportunities. I think he's looking great. He lost some weight. He's really been out there grinding. So I'm definitely saying over 20 RBIs for this 60-game season.
Love that optimism. Again, Miggy will be a huge asset for the Tigers this season. And I agree with you. He's going to come back stronger than ever in this one. Art, this last one, there's a lot of exciting young guns in the Tigers prospect pool. And I have to say, I think if I were talking to Ron Gardenhire right now, he would definitely be taking the over. But do you think over or under 4 players to make their MLB debut this season?
Oh, that's a good one.
Well, I definitely want to go over. I definitely want to say over 4. And I think if the Tigers don't get off to the start that we want, or have the season that, we're kind of, hopefully hoping that they do have, I think it may be over 4, because the record probably is going to be a little bit substandard. I'm going to say push on this one. And I'm going to say that there's going to be 4 players making their major league debut. Of course, there's Arthur Mize. What a good-looking guy. And then, Tarek Skubal and Matt Manning. I think Skubal, he's been hurt, so I'm not sure exactly when he'll be on the timeline there. Mize is in. I don't know, and I can't wait to talk to Jason Beck about this. I don't know how you can keep Casey Mize off this roster. I just don't know. I know the Tigers are saying, yeah, we know, because we know what we're doing, and you don't. He's not going to make it right out of camp. I hope Arthur does make it. With that said, I also think that Alex Faedo, even though I know he's a little bit hurt as well right now, I think Faedo, there's something about him, and I think it's his maturity and his approach. I think he's going to make it. I think Daz Cameron's going to make it. And, and I think Derek Hill is going to make it. Matt Manning's been roughed up the last couple of games. So I think that Matt Manning may need a little more seasoning before they throw him into a major league game. Casey's ready to go, as I said. Skubal I find really, really interesting. I think that when you look at this, and this is why this is a really interesting question, because I can go on about a lot of these guys, is that we don't know what the future is going to bring still. We don't know when the 2021 season is going to start, if the pandemic is going to be under control at that point. What's the labor strife? So in a strange sense, even though there's no minor leagues for these guys to go to, and they're all going to be in Toledo, do you want to? Because you don't know what the new CBA is going to look like. You don't know about time served or service time, I guess it's called. So depending where the Tigers are, why not give some of these kids a shot? Let them play. You know, I would look at it, and I know it's easier for me to do because there's all kinds of contractual things and blowing off their year and all that kind of stuff. Much like the 9 games, you know, that the Red Wings, you know, most sides are going to play 9 games this year, only 9. Zadina, they had that a couple of years ago. Well, it's kind of a similar mindset in baseball, but I look at it like this. The future is uncertain. You're playing 60 games, depending on where you are in the standings. If you're competing and if you're contending, then I think that, you know, it might be under 4. I'm still going to go with a push. But if they're not contending, maybe they go over 4 because they don't know what the future is going to bring and when these guys are ever going to see major league competition because, you know, everything could be put on hold. So I know that's a kind of a roundabout answer, but take it to the bank. Casey Mize has to make this team.
Well, both
Casey
of you
Mize
guys
is the
know this
man.
too. Yeah, and you said it, Art. There's a lot of things that we don't know. Another thing that's completely unknown is the COVID-19 situation. What happens with testing if a player does test positive? If they have an injury, there may be situations where these guys are kind of forced to play in a sense. They're pulled up because of unforeseen circumstances. So there's a lot that could happen in this 60-game season.
No question. I mean, I think
For
you're
sure.
absolutely right. You know, and I think, let's be honest here. I think if Al Avila has to be pleasantly surprised by some of the quote-unquote non-roster invitee guys that they have. Watching that game last night, and I know I keep hearkening back to it, but there's something to be excited about it, and it just isn't the piped-in sound and the music and everything that they got going on at Comerica Park during these games now, and umpires for at least a few innings. With all that said, though, I think, you know, again, you see a semblance of a team, you see some depth, and because there's depth and because injuries always happen in professional sports, unfortunately, you know, 4 is not an unreasonable number. That's why I think it's going to hit 4 for sure. I really do think it'll hit 4. But then again, wherever the injury bug goes and wherever COVID-19 decides to go next, that might increase that number.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
Definitely. But like you said, Art, a lot to be excited about as we look forward to opening day, which is just next Friday, everybody, July 24th. That wraps it up for today's Bet You Didn't Know, presented by Motor City Casino Hotel. I liked that one, you guys. Like I said, I couldn't lose. Carly and Art had some great insight for us there. And I'm even more excited for opening day than I was before. But Carly, let's pass it over to you. I know you have been watching all of our social media channels as usual.
That is right. One guy we've been talking about a lot, the Tigers posted this Riley Greene appreciation post with a two video highlights of one, his dive and catch from last night's inter-squad scrimmage game, and then his opposite field home run. The young player has had a very impressive camp thus far. I know we talked about him earlier, and I can't wait to see what else he accomplishes. And make sure you stay tuned in here to the stream because later in the show, he'll be joining Art on the headliner, and you guys won't want to miss out on that one. And then now on to the Red Wings end of things. Some tough news coming from former Red Wings defenseman Kyle Quincy. His 15-month-old son, Axel, is battling brain cancer, unfortunately. He's now had 2 surgeries following many days of chemo. He's continuing his radiation treatment in Philadelphia. While they wait for some positive results. They were encouraged by the second operation in June, in which they said 99% of the tumor was removed, but the fight is far from over. Look at this cute sweatshirt they're selling. You can head on over to the Red Wings Twitter to find a link to purchase this
awesome sweatshirt to support Team Axel. All proceeds will benefit fighting childhood cancer. So, it's a really good way to give back. Another good way to give back onto a lighthearted post, this throwback of a Make-A-Wish come true. Lucas, who has cystic fibrosis, met his idol Henrik Zetterberg back in 2018. I remember this game in the post from the Make-A-Wish Foundation Michigan Instagram. It reads, "Hope is essential for Wish Kids. You can bring hope for today and tomorrow by donating today." And to head on over to the link in their bio. So head on over to the Red Wings Twitter to get that sweatshirt to support and benefit fighting childhood cancer. And then Make-A-Wish, of course, to give those kids and give them those wishes that they so granted. Okay, and then that's all for now. But you guys, make sure you send in your questions for us to answer later in the show, because I will be back for more Let's Socialize.
Thank you, Carly. As she said, she'll be back later in the show for Let's Socialize. So whatever platform you're on, make sure you're dropping comments, questions, anything you have, put them in there. Carly will look for them and we will get to them later in the show. And I did want to add, of course, all of our thoughts and prayers are with Kyle Quincy and his family as they go through this difficult time. And you can go over to the Red Wings Twitter to purchase one of those sweatshirts that Carly just showed us. A really, really great cause. So make sure you head on over there. And now, Red Wings fans, we are going to talk some hockey. I caught up with WXYZ's Justin Rose earlier this week. All right, everybody, it's time for Downtown Hockey Town, presented by Labatt Blue Light. And today's guest is Channel 7 WXYZ sports reporter Justin Rose. Justin, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today.
Absolutely. Happy to be here. This is quite the setup you guys got going on. Love watching the new episodes every week.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. I have to ask you, though, a couple personal questions before we get into the sports talk here. It's been a tough year, but you have had some great accomplishments happen to you in the past year here. You got married, so you're in the first year of marriage right now. And just recently, you won a Michigan Emmy for Best Sports Anchor, which I know you have won for Best Sports Reporter before. What did it mean to you to win as an anchor?
It's kind of that extra level. You don't really think about as a growing journalist, you're thinking like, well, I think it would be cool to win once for anything. And then you win one and you're like, oh my gosh, this is so incredible. And then you realize, okay, well, reporter is not the same as anchor. And then when you win for anchor, I don't know. It was just one of those things where it's like, when you think of all the great anchors for sports in the state of Michigan, and to win that category, when you think of all the names that pop into your head, I mean, it's kind of crazy to think that my name's in that mix now. And from 10 years ago, I would have never believed that would have happened. So it was a really cool thing. It was a little upsetting we didn't get to celebrate with our peers at the ceremony, but nonetheless, I've got it shined up and in the living room. So it'll be a nice trophy to look at for a while.
Well, a huge congratulations there. And as I mentioned, you're in your first year of marriage. What an interesting first year. You guys doing okay? She hasn't kicked you out yet?
No, we haven't. And it's funny because my wife actually has been just starting a brand new dance-based fitness boutique in Royal Oak called AKT. And they only opened their doors for about 60 days before they had to shut it down. So then the business model went to online virtual. So she's been at home working out, kicking me out of the bedroom at 6 a.m. so she could do workout classes. And I've been sleeping on the couch for a different reason. So it's been good. We've been cohabitating very well in our first year of marriage. It hasn't been the worst thing in the world. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, that's great to hear, because I've heard some stories that the wives are getting sick of their husbands really quick. So gold star for you. I'm really happy.
Thank you.
She hasn't gotten rid of you yet. But we are here to talk some Red Wings hockey, Justin. And before we get into it, I think I know the answer, but I'm going to ask this anyway. What was your reaction to the draft lottery and where the Red Wings fell and everything that went with it?
Detroit versus everybody. It's always going to be that way. We should just get to know it by now and get used to it. Look, the NHL draft lottery has to be revamped in the future. I mean, you cannot tell me, and I understand there are extenuating circumstances this year, but you can't tell me that a team that's playing for the Stanley Cup should have better odds than any other team that's not to win the lottery. And I'm not talking about them getting the number 1 overall seed, which they did. I'm talking about in general. You shouldn't have an opportunity. They need to reevaluate that from the floor up. And it broke my heart for the franchise. It broke my heart for Steve Yzerman and all the Red Wings fans who have been so patient, because The one thing I will say is when you look at the sports scene, in Detroit, there's been really good patience with the Red Wings. We have not seen firings of head coaches. We have not seen a firing of a GM. It was a smoother process, if you will, from Ken Holland to Steve Yzerman. And the fan base isn't restless. And you don't see that with the Pistons. You don't see that with the Tigers. You don't see that with the Lions. So they needed a win, and they didn't get it. And that's kind of where my mind went immediately to.
So aside from the Red Wings not being where we all feel that they should be, where they actually really should be, it's not about feelings at that point, but a team, like you said, that is playing for the Stanley Cup is going to have the number one pick. And I personally, teams don't like to lose. I don't think they tank. But do you think there's teams out there that are looking at this like, oh, well, if we don't make it, we're going to have a chance at that number one pick?
Absolutely. I've already seen some of my old cohorts in Pittsburgh talking about it because they're one of the teams that's playing in that first round robin, if you will, to get to the next level. And they're like, well, it's not a bad consolation prize if the Penguins go out there and get swept in 4 games. Then all of a sudden you're looking at having an opportunity to have the number one overall pick. And if a team like Pittsburgh, who had that number one overall pick, who already had that franchise-changing player in Sidney Crosby come through, the fact that they're going to have another crack at it while they have a crack for playing for the Stanley Cup, that doesn't seem right to me.
Yeah, it actually makes my stomach turn a little bit. I'm not even going to lie about it. There's a couple teams where if they end up with that number one pick, it just will not sit well at all. But looking at the Red Wings, they are picking 4th. Let's assume right now that Jamie Drysdale, the defenseman, is on the board at 4. We're looking at this Red Wings team who had the worst goal differential in the league by a long shot last year. So if Jamie Drysdale is there, do you think they go defenseman and pick Jamie Drysdale, or do you think they're going to look for someone that could be an elite goal scorer?
It's really tough to tell. Steve Yzerman has only had one draft under his belt here with the Red Wings, and he did something that nobody thought he was going to do. Like nobody thought he was going to do. So for us to sit, hey, Drysdale's the guy. Look, I would love to have a puck-moving defenseman who can take defense into offense and help transition the team up down the ice. Sure, anyone would like that. But Steve Yzerman knows this game really well, and I'm going to kind of wait and see before I give you a grandiose prediction. Yes, Drysdale is going to be an unbelievable player at the next level. How soon can be up playing at the NHL level? That's the big thing. And if Yzerman thinks that there's somebody else who's somewhere else that we may not even be talking about, like he did last year with his draft pick, kind of a guy no one really thought was going to go that high, he might be more NHL ready. And I think Steve's starting to say, hey, we want patience, right? I asked for patience, but he's getting a little bit of himself, I think, ready to kind of get back into contention. So if there's a guy there who can contribute earlier, perhaps, than Drysdale, maybe he goes there. But I still like Drysdale to pick there at 4.
We also know the Red Wings need to address their goaltending situation, which probably will be done in free agency. 4 is really high to pick a goaltender. They could pick them in the later rounds too. But what do you think will happen at that goaltender spot? Do you think it's a free agency pick? Do you think it's a draft pick?
It's got to be free agency. The thing about goaltending is you can't pick. I mean, Marc-Andre Fleury was the last top 5 goaltender picked, I believe. That was ages ago. So the fact of the matter is you can't go draft for a goaltender when you need help now. And the Red Wings cap situation puts them in a little bit of they can spend a little bit more money on the goaltending position this year. Jonathan Bernier has already been locked up. I think he has one more year on the 3-year deal that he signed a couple of years ago. So he knows, what you're going to get from him in his final year, and he's going to be playing for his next contract. So he's going to play well. If you go out and you spend a little extra cash on another goaltender, maybe you get a guy for 3, 4, 5 years that can help you transition some of these younger guys up. But they need to draft a goaltender and have somebody coming up through the ranks. But to go that high, no, they can't do that in the first or second round. They need to find somebody and develop them.
So a goaltender in free agency, and we know that the Red Wings are going to have to make a splash probably elsewhere in free agency, get some veterans, couple-year deals. What direction do you see them going in aside from goaltender? Who could be some other free agency pickups?
Now, here's the problem, too, is they're not going to be able to go and spend a ton of money on the marquee names that you're going to find in free agency anyways. I look at what Steve Yzerman's trying to do is he's trying to align this to line up with Dylan Larkin and Bertuzzi and Mantha. When are their peak years? 2 years? Is it 4 years? Is it 5 years? Where are we at in the rebuild? I think we all have to kind of look back and look at these contracts of free agents that are out there right now on who's available right now. But you're not going to go and spend, top money for a guy that is going to be maybe good in the next 3 years, and maybe he curtails off. That's a two-player of a friendly deal. You got to wait until you're saying, we're going for it. We're going for it. We're going to make it now. And I think Steve knows next year is not the year. That's not to say they're not going to play their tails off and try to get back into the mix, but that was supposed to be this year, right? They were only supposed to be out of the playoffs by a couple of points where the season basically ended. Well, we all know how that ended up turning out. So they can't go and spend a huge, free agent money on one or two guys right now. I think they're going to have to take the second tier guys and they're going to have to patch the holes. And then they're going to have to look in 2 or 3 years who comes out off the books that they can really go after.
Let's focus a little on this return to play. The NHLPA approved the CBA, which means they have approved the return to play plan, which training camps are going on right now. That's super exciting. Teams are flying to their hub cities on July 26th. August 1st is that tentative start date. Hopefully we get there and everything happens on August 1st. But aside from the draft situation, these play-in rounds are going to be pretty exciting. Are there any matchups that you're excited to see or anything that you're looking forward to watching?
You know what I'm looking forward to watching is the March Madness style timing they have of these games, because between two cities, every 2 hours, a new game is going to be starting. Starting at noon, you're going to be watching hockey from noon until like 10 o'clock at night. And I think that's the most exciting thing that could come out of this entire thing, because it will have that March Madness feel. I always keep an eye. I used to cover the Penguins for 2 years, and I know people in Detroit hate the Penguins, but I'm still a little partial to my Penguins. I've followed them throughout their runs to conference finals when I was there in 12 and 13. But, I'll watch them. But I'll watch all these games because I'm just like everybody else. Give me the content. Give me the sports. Give me the live. And so I'll be tuned in all day long. And it's kind of nice to be working from home, because then we can watch it and we're not running around out there in the field too much.
It's going to be so exciting. I feel the same way you do. Just having a day full of watching hockey. It sounds like a dream right now. It's almost hard to believe that it's actually going to happen in a couple of weeks.
I don't even know if I have enough things locked up in the fridge yet for it. So I got to do a little bit of a grocery run.
Good thing you have a couple weeks. We all need to get on that, stocking our fridge and watch a full Saturday of hockey. But Justin, thank you so much for joining us again. It has been great catching up with you. And a big thank you to Labatt Blue Light for presenting Downtown Hockey Town. Labatt Blue Light, refreshing Canadian Pilsner. Visit your local retailer when safe to pick up some Labatt Blue Light. Great catching up with Justin there. He made a great point. We're going to have to stock up our fridges in the event of all of these sports picking back up. But we know that baseball is happening before we even get to hockey. So we're going to talk about baseball the rest of today's show, you guys. Let's get right in to Brush Street Beat, presented by our friends at McLaren Healthcare. And our guest for Brush Street Beat today is Tigers writer for MLB.com, Jason Beck. Jason, great to see you again. As always, thank you for taking the time to join us.
Thanks for having me on. Great to be here.
So I want to start with talking about Matt Boyd. We've been talking about him a lot in our show so far, and he is the probable opening day starter. We don't know that for sure yet, but he had a great outing in last night's inter-squad game. So do you think he has solidified that opening day slot?
Yeah, Gardy all but said it. He said, obviously that Boyd is on track to start. It would be on his turn. He started a day later than he was supposed to pitch. He would have pitched on Tuesday in live batting practice, but he got pushed back because of a COVID protocol, just having to go through some testing to make sure he was cleared. But he's there. And, Gardy said basically they're waiting on the official announcement to make it clear, but that he's pretty much a choice right now.
Jason, the next question I want to ask you is talking about Jeimer Candelario. He had a couple of hits last night in the inter-squad game, and we talk about that the third base position a lot as well. Do you think he's making a clear run at taking over that third base spot?
Yeah, I think he's got the edge right now. It was one of the more interesting battles to follow in spring training, because both Candelario and Lugo were out of minor league options. But really, ever since I think the spring training play started in Lakeland, Candelario has kind of had that edge. He's played a little bit better, and he's showing slow progress right now. He did a little bit of changes to his approach at the plate. He tried to work, lower body core strength more into his swing, and it took a little bit while to get used to, but you're starting to see the results of it. He's not tearing up summer camp, but he's showing a good, solid play, and I think that's what the Tigers want to see. They want to see some consistency, and they want to see him kind of go about addressing some of the weaknesses that pitchers were able to exploit out of him last year.
Jason, I definitely have a lot of questions. I even took notes during last night's game. We go on forever, but I want. I know, pretty impressive, eh? But and surprising. But with that said, I'm kind of looking at two things struck me as I watched the live stream last night. Was umpires were finally there, even though I guess there must have been a labor dispute because they walked off after I think like the 6th or 7th inning. They suddenly disappeared, and also crowd noise and music, which I actually thought enhanced the telecast. Was that what it was like in the ballpark too? I mean, it actually had a game atmosphere, and I wasn't so sure I was a big fan of piped in sound and music when there's no one in the stands.
Here's the deal with the crowd noise. It's going on pretty much league-wide right now. The sounds came from MLB. They provided a variety of scenarios for sounds, and brought in ways to implement it over PA systems, so all different ballparks. And a lot of the audio basically comes from MLB The Show, the video game. So you can kind of hear that effect. It's not completely personalized, but it is crowd noise from actual major league games. And so what we're getting is, sorry about that. So what we're getting is basically reactions for good plays, and then the buzz the hum, I guess, that you usually hear when a game is going on among the crowd. And in person, it was a work in progress. I think at first hearing it almost sounded like there was like a swarm of bugs around the ballpark. And then they adjusted some of the tones and the volumes and everything, and started sounding pretty normal. And then by the end, it kind of sounded like a natural background, almost like highway noise, where you kind of get used to it. It doesn't stand out too much, but it allows a little bit more of a natural sound. Now, that being said, you can still hear a lot of sound effects around the ballpark in terms of like the sounds of the game. So like when Grayson Greiner hit that home run off the foul pole, you could hear the doink off the foul pole.
Wow. And the umpires,
Yeah.
Will they be back tonight?
I believe they are supposed to be back tonight. It's kind of, it's basically training for umpires too. They left after 7 innings because that's what they were supposed to do. And they're traveling back. They have to get back home after games. So once that game went after the 7th, they decided to cut loose. They had their training in, kind of like when early spring training games, when players only go 6 or 7 innings. That's what the umpires are doing right now. I don't know if they're on a pitch count or what, but that's kind of what they're doing. I guess, not throw them out of the game. Let's clear that up right now.
Talking about tonight's game, just a reminder, you guys can catch tonight's inter-squad game on Fox Sports Detroit starting at 6:30. It's going to be really exciting to be able to watch some live baseball. Jason, we're not going to let you off the hook, though, without talking about Riley Greene. He has been really good throughout this summer camp, and last night he was showing off both offensively and defensively. Now, I might be getting overly optimistic here, but what are the chances that we see him on that starting 30-man roster?
Probably none. I think you'd have to go through a bunch of injuries or absences to have that happen. Now, that being said, I think what he's shown in camp has arguably moved up the timetable a little bit to where you could see it feasibly, where he could get and get his major league debut. Going into this, I think a lot of us would have thought that near the end of next season. And now I think you're looking at early next season seems a little bit more realistic now. And I don't know if it's completely out of the question that maybe we see him make a cameo appearance by the end of this year, depending on what the Tigers scenario is and how their outfield looks.
Well, let's, I think Riley Greene has obviously shown that, and I agree with you. I think if there's one thing, I think the Tigers have to be pleasantly surprised with how some of these youngsters are handling this summer session. But let's go to Casey, whom I affectionately call Arthur Mize. The king of the hill. I love that. And unleash the torque, by the way, Jason. Unleash the torque. But with all that said, how does Mize not make this team? I mean, Gardenhire. I mean, maybe Al Avila's telling him calm down a little bit. But every time you mention Casey Mize, Gardenhire just can't help but be effusive in his praise. I mean, Mize somehow has to make this club.
I think it's telling that Gardy's praise of Mize has gotten stronger and stronger as we get closer to opening day, to where the other day he basically said, yeah, it's, if it was up to me, I'd love to take him right now. We can't get him up here soon enough. It kind of reminded me of the old Jim Leland phrase, give me talent, I'll take talent, you take experience, and I'll beat you every time. I think if the Tigers were in a little different situation, or if this was a little different era, maybe we see Mize to start the year, kind of like how Leland took a 20-year-old Rick Porcello on his opening day staff in 2009. I don't think it'll be long before we see Mize. I think we could see him by mid-season, maybe even a quarter point. We'll see. A lot of it's going to depend on the rest of the rotation, how they look. Daniel Norris, we're kind of still waiting to see when he gets in. Michael Fulmer is certainly lined up to potentially fill that spot, but he's still working his way in. You've got Jordan Zimmerman, and we're kind of waiting to see how he looks. And I think Boyd's situation the last couple of days reminds us that, even with the best protocols and the best precautions, we don't know what's going to happen in terms of, if somebody gets exposed and they end up having to go on the IL because of testing positive for COVID. And when that happens, you're going to need somebody to slot in, potentially, if it's, in the example of Boyd, it could be on a moment's notice. And when you're looking at that scenario and looking at the potential of having to improvise, as Gardy has acknowledged, it's not the worst thing in the world to have two of the best pitching prospects in baseball waiting down at the alternate training site in Toledo, ready to come up right away. You'll have to get them on turn, but it's nice having that level of talent there, and also guys who show the polish and the ability to adjust that Casey Mize has so far.
Taking a look at Derek Hill next. Great points, by the way, Jason. I think that's all really valid things. And everybody, of course, would like to see Casey Mize make his appearance this season. And hopefully we do get to see that. But when you look at a guy like Derek Hill, who, again, had a good inter-squad game yesterday and has been pretty impressive throughout the summer camp. You said Riley Greene probably won't be on the 30-man roster, but it may have fast-tracked his road to the Tigers. Do you feel that same way about Derek Hill?
I think so. That being said, Jacoby Jones was out of the lineup last night because of the oblique tightness. Sounds like it was more precautionary. With oblique injuries, it's always hard to tell. Sometimes even precautionary move ends up being a lot longer than you expect because you just don't know how it's going to react. Defensively, Derek Hill can play in the major leagues right now. I think some evaluators might have said that even before summer camp. When you watch the way Hill not only, shows off with highlight catches in the minor leagues and now in summer camp, but also the way he knows how to read hitters, knows how to read fly balls, and gets good reads. He looks like a polished major league veteran in center field. The question has always been with him, can he hit enough to hold his place in the major leagues? That's been a work in progress. He's looked better as this camp has gone on offensively. He still has a little ways to go. But you watch that double he legged out last night, and the speed is there, and it gives you a starting point. It's like, how do we take advantage of that speed, not only defensively, but out on, at the plate and on the base paths? And so if you can get him on base at even a reasonable rate, I think you've got a pretty good offensive player there, or a guy who can at least contribute near the bottom of a batting order. And I think the game has changed to where, look at Jackie Bradley Jr. in Boston. If you bring defensive value, a defensive premium at a position where, that calls for it, you don't have to hit a ton to hold down a major league spot. I think, the metrics that take into account defense and offense will show that. And Derek Hill has a chance to be a surprisingly high value, high WAR player based on that defense. And he doesn't have to hit necessarily a ton to be able to do that.
Jason, I want to make sure that I didn't take all these notes for not here. So I have a bunch of questions I'm going to throw at you, all almost kind of a word association. First of all, Matt Manning, a little bit roughed up again. Riley Greene hits the opposite field home run off him in the 7th inning last night. Your thoughts on Matt Manning? I want to give you a couple more. Kyle Funkhauser, who at one time was maybe the top pitching prospect for the Tigers, has battled some injuries. He pitched 4 complete scoreless innings the last couple of times he's been in there. Nolan Blackwood is just bizarre looking when he's out there throwing. And any concerns about Miguel Cabrera, who was great in spring training, but seems to be, and maybe it's because he doesn't have anything to prove. He just wants to start playing games. But the summer session, he quite hasn't looked like he did in spring training. I know that's a lot to throw at you. I will sit back and listen.
Okay, so, Matt Manning, let's start with the first one. Matt Manning, good young arm, still raw, still learning how to pitch the guy, still learning how to sequence pitches. I don't think he's as far along as Casey Mize is, but I could still envision him potentially making an appearance this year. But he's probably somebody they're going to work with down in Toledo once the season starts. Nolan Blackwood, Gardy likes him. Gardy has a history of liking unconventional arms, unconventional relievers. He basically helped Pat Neshek forge a career in that Twins bullpen back in the day. And he got one of the most productive seasons out of Lewis Coleman a few years ago. I think he sees Nolan Blackwood as a similar type of reliever. And I think he likes the reactions he gets out of hitters. No less than Miguel Cabrera was giving funny looks to him after watching him in live BP one day. Miguel Cabrera, I think the timing doesn't seem to be here. The other thing with Miggy, having covered him over the years, Miggy thrives off the big game situations, having an opponent and having a crowd there. So I think, I suspect there's a little bit of an adjustment there to what we're seeing in summer camp. He's trying to simulate that type of intensity in a situation that really doesn't have much of it. I'm hesitant to say I'm worried about him because I want to see what it's like when he gets into another ballpark, sees a pitcher in a different uniform, not his own, and you get regular season games that count, basically.
How about Funkhauser?
Jason,
could he make the team?
That was the guy I forgot, yeah. Funkhauser, we're seeing more pitchability, I think, in the summer camp out of him. He'd been roughed up the last couple spring trainings, and certainly an injury-plagued season at AAA Toledo last year. This was kind of a key camp for him. We really weren't sure if this was a chance to prove it or lose it. But right now, he looks like a guy. I don't know if he's necessarily going to be fitting as a starter, given the plethora of starting prospects they have. But you could definitely see him being a pitchable relief arm. out of that bullpen at some point this year.
Jason, I give you credit for keeping track of Art's question there. You went right down the line. I even forgot about Funkhauser too. So great job with that. That was impeccable. The last question I do want to ask you is looking ahead to tonight's inter-squad game and the inter-squad games that we're going to play up through next week. What can fans really be looking for?
Well, I think, tonight you're really looking at some of the last outings for some of these guys before you start having to make camp decisions. Spencer Turnbull's got a rotation spot. He starts, but I think you're going to want to see how his command is and how his stuff plays. I think that'll be a key. I think you're looking at that, how does Candelario build off the momentum from his last few days? And also, I mean, let's be honest, we're looking at the prospects right now and looking to see how they perform. I want to see how Spencer Torkelson does after getting his first hit of camp last night. I want to see if that built some momentum for him, and if seeing major league pitching for the last week or two, kind of gets his timing going, and kind of seeing. I want to see him, hit a ball really hard.
All right, Jason, thank you so much for joining us for Brush Street Beat today. It's been great to catch up with you, and I'm sure we will be talking to you very soon as we lead up to next Friday's opening day. Another big thank you to McLaren Healthcare for presenting Brush Street Beat this week and every week right here on the Word on Woodward. You guys, we have been talking a lot about Riley Greene, a lot about him. And I know that we've all been anticipating this next headliner interview. Art Regner is joined by Riley Greene, so let's get to it.
Thanks, Daniela. It is time for the headliner, brought to you by Miller Lite, and let's bring in Tigers outfielder Riley Greene. Riley, thanks for joining us on the headliner. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me.
Let's go back to the catch. Everybody's talking about it. We thought when Derek Hill made that grab, although, again, I might have questioned that. I thought it might have hit a blade of grass or two when it popped out of his mitt. But aside from that, let's go back to your catch against CJ Cron. Take us through it. I mean, because did you have a beat on that ball right away? Did you know that you were going to grab it?
So to start off, that was a great swing by CJ. I mean, I have no clue how he got to the ball, but he did. And once he hit it really, really high. And I knew that it was going to be close to going over or not. So I mean, I ran over there anyways, and I saw it that it was just going to leave the park. So I gave it my best try. I timed it. My timing was perfectly on it, and I jumped up and threw my glove at it, and I got it. So I mean, it was an awesome feeling catching that ball.
Well, he golfed it, I mean, really, you're right. He kind of swung low, and it was a high pitch. But I'm kind of curious. I mean, you haven't played very much at Comerica Park. Did you go around the outfield? Did you have a good feel of where you were, where the fence was, timing the jump? Because as you said, it was perfect. It was a heck of a catch.
Well, if you look at the video, you can see me peek like twice before I got to the fence. Like it was like a quick peek and another quick peek. And then I jumped up and threw my glove at it. So I mean, I was peeking at the fence, looking at the ball, peeking back, looking at the ball. So man, yeah, I mean, my timing was good too on it. So,
but I thought what made it great is that you're not really used to playing at Comerica Park, though, right? I mean, you're not really familiar with it yet. I mean, you soon will be, but I mean, in order to make that catch, to have the presence of mind and look and all that, I think it made it really kind of an astounding catch because you're pretty inexperienced in that ballpark.
Oh yeah, I mean, I did my best when we'd hit BP. I'd take live reads. I'd take live reads in left, center, right, wherever I could go.
Well, okay, Riley, I'm obsessed with the catch, but we'll move on from that. When the Tigers were drafting in 2019. I started to read up on the potential prospects. I knew they had the 5th overall pick, and I've said this many times before, and I'm just not saying it because you're on the air. I'm reading about it, and it says projected at 5 is Riley Greene. This kid from Florida, from Orlando, high schooler, has all the tools. So I'm thinking they're reading it, going, yeah, I hope they get Riley Greene. I can't believe this guy isn't going to go 1st overall. Can you take us through that process?
Yeah. So when I was a junior, all the top prospect guys in high school, they go around like a summer circuit. So there's like the Perfect Game All American game, the Under Armour All American game. So I went to most of those. I mean I was home maybe 2 weeks all summer, and yeah, I mean it was just a grind that summer too. The scouts were there, playing my hardest there, and then senior year came around, and they started coming to the high school games and things like that. So yeah, I mean that's kind of how it went. So I was constantly getting scouted wherever I was.
How surprised were you when they had the 5th selection and your name is called?
It was cool. It was really cool. So I wasn't sure where I was going in the draft. Somewhere around that area, but I didn't know where. It just depending on how the draft went. Once the 5th pick came around, I got a call and I was like, "Yo, you're going to the Tigers." I was like, "Awesome." So yeah, I got to celebrate it with my family and friends, and that was a great night.
Well, with that said, and the reason I'm asking you that question is that, and really thank you for bearing with me, because I really want to know what the process about what a young prospect like you goes through. You get drafted by the Tigers, but you have an opportunity to play for the University of Florida. You can be a Florida Gator, much like Alex Faedo. How difficult of a process is that for you to decide, okay, I'm going to forego college and go pro right away?
Well, to start, the Florida Gators have a great program. Heard a bunch of great things about them, and they are a very, very good team with very good players and a very good. So I just want to give a shout out to them, and thank you for recruiting me over there. And then yeah, I mean, pro ball was something I wanted to do since I was 5, 6 years old, and I mean, I worked hard at it. My parents pushed me through school, and so I mean, yeah, I mean, it wasn't a really hard decision to make. I mean, that was my dream, and I wanted to carry on with my dream. So
So you signed with Detroit, but you've ascended pretty quickly. Were you pleased with how you ascended through the minor league ranks with the Tigers last year, your first year of pro ball?
I mean, yeah, I mean, I wasn't really thinking about it. I was just going out and playing it as hard as I could, and those things will take care of themselves. I struggled a little bit when I got to low A, but I mean, it's gonna happen. So yeah, but I'm pleased with how last year went.
Now, looking at training camp this year, we had Ron Gardenhire on a couple of weeks ago here on the headliner here on the Word on Woodward, and he was saying that he probably used you too much in spring training, but you were just so good and you were their best player. And then obviously, you've carried over here in spring training too, or summer training, whatever the Tigers are calling it. I mean, in your own mind, I know you want to be a major leaguer. I know you want to be a Tiger. Do you think you're doing everything in your power to impress upon them that you might be ready for the major leagues pretty darn soon?
Oh, I mean, I can't really do much. All I can do is I can go out and play as hard as I can, and those things will take care of themselves. I can't really decide on whether I'm going to move up or not, but I can decide if I want to play hard, and I haven't played hard, and I just been going out having fun every day and just trying to do my best. So.
When you look at it, you led the Tigers in hitting in spring training one. I don't know if you're going to make this club right now. You might be in Toledo, but when you look at it based on your first experience of what you had your first year pro, where you were sending up the Tiger ranks, what do you think you really need to work on to be wearing that Old English D very, very soon?
Just work on my outfield skills. Just trying to get faster in the outfield, trying to get better with the glove and things like that. And I mean, just trying to be more consistent as much as I can. And yeah, just trying to cut down on the strikeouts and just put the ball in play whenever I can.
I've always liked to ask, really, when did you realize that you had an opportunity to be a baseball player? I mean, everybody plays baseball. Every kid picks up a glove at one point. Everybody's part of a little league team for a while. And, that filtering out process, when did you know that this was a realistic goal for you to be a professional baseball player?
Probably around freshman year of high school, I'd say. Just because I had a really good coach, and he's actually the one who moved me from the infield to the outfield. So I mean, he knew what he was doing. So yeah, he told me that I was pretty good, and I was going to be really good, and he's kind of one of the people who helped me through the process of things like that. So yeah, he was a great coach, and he helped me that one year when I was a freshman. I was on varsity, and he helped me through that. So yeah, probably freshman year was a year that I knew that I wanted to play pro ball.
When you play pro ball and you look at it, the Tigers now have a lot of good young prospects. Their minor league system went from almost being dead last in baseball into the top 5 or 6 in all the rankings. What's it like to be surrounded with so much talent? Have you been able to bond with these guys? And is it kind of cool to know that some of these guys that you're playing with right now, you're eventually going to be in Detroit and be Tigers and hopefully very soon win a world championship?
Oh yeah, I mean all the guys in this organization in the minor leagues and big leagues, they're all talented. I mean, they're all really, really good people. So yeah, I mean, I'm excited for what the future holds with the Tigers. They're ready to go. So I mean, I'm excited to see what happens.
When you look at it that way, you got a guy like Torkelson comes in, you've got Casey Mize, you're a high draft pick, you're a top 5. What has that dynamic been like? Do you talk to those guys, or are you more seeking out a guy like Cameron Maben or some of the veterans on this team to get a feel for what it means to be a professional baseball player?
Well, I'll talk to both. I mean, just to see the things that the big leaguers do and the minor leaguers do, and I mean, we're all in it together. We all want to win. We all want to do good for this club. So I mean, yeah, just communication between all the players is key.
Have you been pleased with what, not only with spring training? I know I've kind of almost asked you this question already, but where you've picked up. I mean, what did you do during your time off? Were you still just down in Florida hanging out, playing ball? And then when you came up here, because it looks like you haven't missed a beat.
So yeah, I mean, I'm very serious about the time we have off of baseball. So I mean, I was getting in the gym, I was hitting, I was just trying to do everything I could to make sure that I was ready.
Do you play baseball 24/7? What else do you do in Florida? I mean, you're right. It's the weather's always beautiful. It's always really nice. A little bit hot and humid at times, I guess. But aside from that, do you like to unwind anyway, or are you just completely focused on baseball?
I'm my favorite hobby is fishing. Actually, I love to fish. And there's some good fishing in Florida. There's the West Coast, like Tampa area, and yeah, just a bunch of places to fish. So yeah, I do that. I mean, I'll hang out with my friends. So yeah, I mean, I'm not just baseball. I like to go out and do other things, but I mean, when it comes to it, when it's time for baseball to come back around, I mean, I'm gonna get serious about that.
What's the largest fish you've ever caught? Like a swordfish, a marlin. I mean, what do you you're out there with with those big fishing reels and stuff where you almost need like 8 guys to pull in a big shark or something?
Actually, the biggest fish I've caught, it was from land. It was like a 50-pound black drum. So I mean, yeah, we don't really go out far. We're kind of more like an inshore kind of group. We don't really like going out. So yeah, I mean, the biggest one I've caught, it's a 50-pound black drum.
All right. Well, okay, Riley, let's look at it. The Tigers now are going to start playing some preseason games against Cincinnati, and then the season starts. What do you hope to accomplish in these last week and a half so of camp?
I mean, just putting the bet a little better. I mean, I started off a little slow, which is okay, but I mean, it happens. But yeah, I'm gonna swing the bat a little better and just try to work on outfield while I'm here. So.
We've all noticed that, especially when the inter-squad game started, that the compete level seems pretty high. No one knew what to expect. I mean, you're going against your teammates. You're all kind of buddies, even though you're all trying to make the team. I mean, have you been surprised at the compete level? Because these have been pretty competitive games, and everybody's really going after one another.
No. I mean, we're all friends here, but it comes time to it. I mean, we're gonna try to beat each other, and I mean that's how baseball players should be. They should want to compete all the time, and that's exactly what the Tigers have. Everyone on the staff here wants to compete at the highest level. So, I mean, yeah, they're gonna go at it as hard as they can.
All right, I'm going to ask you this question because what would it mean to you on July 24th at roughly like 6 o'clock Eastern Daylight Time if you're in the Tigers lineup against the Cincinnati Reds?
I mean, that'd be awesome. I mean, I'd be very grateful for it to happen, but I'm not sure if it is going to happen, but I mean, that'd be awesome. That'd be one of the best days of my life. So
it would be awesome for me too, Riley. I mean, since the moment the Tigers have drafted you, no, I'm serious. I mean, you're a very special young man. You can see the talent. I like that you're humble. I've been trying to get you to tell us how great you are, and you're just not going to bite on that. So I do definitely appreciate that. But I wish you nothing but success. Really, it's going to be great. I look forward to seeing you in a Tigers uniform very soon and for a long, long time. Thanks for joining us today on the Headliner.
Well, thank you.
All right, there you have it, Daniela. That is Riley Greene of the Tigers on the Headliner, presented by Miller Lite, the original light beer, only 96 calories. It tastes delicious, and it's also available for delivery. Back to you, Daniela.
Thank you, Art and Riley. Great to hear from Riley Greene. I know we were all really excited to hear what he had to say. And of course, we're looking forward to what he does in this season. But right now, you guys, it is time for Let's Socialize, presented by AAA. And Carly has been all over our social media channels, taking your questions and comments. Carly, what do you have for us today?
That is right. I have been, and thanks everyone for sending questions. The first one is going to Art. Okay. Do you think not having fans will have an impact on the Tigers' overall performance this season? What is your take on that?
I've kind of thought about this a lot because there have been several times where I've been like, especially in football games, like right on the field. And I think what happens, or at ice level, actually, court level, all of it, I think after a while you get so caught up in the competition or watching the game that you almost forget about your surroundings. So I think the concentration level, especially at the major league level, is so high that I'm not so sure that not having fans is really going to affect them that much. I think obviously in big situations, or you're looking for a walk-off home run, or you're looking for something like that, and you hit it, you might miss the roar of the crowd at that point, or maybe once Casey Mize is throwing a no-hitter and they're chanting Arthur, he'll get involved in that in particular moments. But I think in the overall scheme of things, I don't think it's going to affect them that much because they're able to tune that out. But we're talking professional athletes who are very focused and have a task at hand and are as competitive as human beings can be. I think that they're able, as I said, filter it all out. So I don't think it's going to have that big of an effect on them.
Got it. Okay, I like that answer. I hope it doesn't. Although I would like to be out in the stands during a game. All right, on to Daniela. Ted Porter wants to know, who are your World Series picks?
Well, this is a really tough question. And of course, I want to say the Tigers, but I just really don't think that is the case for this season. So let's look at the American League first. When you look at the American League, the team that everybody wants to say, but us as Detroit fans don't want to say necessarily, is the Yankees. Their roster's good. They're really good. They've made some great offseason moves, and they've got to be one of the strongest teams. But they do play a really tough schedule, so definitely watch out for the Yankees, but that's nothing new there. But I think the A's are going to be the team that you really want to watch. They've got great starting pitching, and they really just have a lot to prove. They're a team that's got to get to the postseason. They've got to prove that they can hang there. And I think that we're going to see more of teams like them emerging during this 60-game season because, like we said, it's more of a sprint than it is a marathon. We've talked about that a lot. So I think the A's are another team to watch coming out of the American League. Now, the National League, again, the obvious pick might be the Dodgers. They've got the best odds right now, and nobody pitched as well as they did last year. And we've talked about this again on the show a couple of times. Pitching is probably going to be ahead of hitting for a little while. So if the Dodgers can get out ahead of everybody, I think they have a really good chance to make it. But another team to watch out for would be the Atlanta Braves. They've got a strong bullpen. They had the addition of Yasiel Puig on top of that young, talented team. Again, they've got a tough schedule, though. They're playing the East Coast teams. They're going to face the Yankees. They're going to face the Nationals, the Twins, and it's not going to be an easy road for them. So when you see the teams that are playing on the East Coast, it's going to be interesting who comes out over there. But again, I think the Braves have a good chance. I think the Dodgers have a good chance. And I can't pick one exactly. If I had to pick, I think I'm going to say the Dodgers in that situation. I'm going to say the A's coming out of the American League.
Very interesting. It really is anyone's season. And like you said, in this sprint, not marathon sort of schedule. Okay. And then lastly, we have one more question for you, Art. What would your goal song be if you played for the Red Wings?
What would my goal song be? Well, obviously, although I would love it to be Red Wings, my Red Wings, my all-time favorite classic, written by Dan Yessie and sung by Larry Santos, Red Wings, Red Wings. But I think if I scored a goal, what my and I would do this to honor my family. It would be from Zorba the Greek, the bouzouki that, the theme of Zorba starts off slow, but once they start jamming in that tune, it's really cool. Like for Brendan, they would play the Irish jig, because my Greek side of my family, if you're Greek, like Chris Chelios, they were a Chris Chelios fan when he was in Montreal, and they were a big Chris Chelios fan when he was in Chicago. And then obviously because he's Greek, so they'd say, yo, he's a good Greek boy. How can you not like Chelios? It's like he plays for the Blackhawks. I can't stand him. But then, of course, I got to know Chelly pretty well, and we're pretty good buddies now. So I think that it would probably be the theme from Zorba the Greek, but it would have to be where the bouzouki is like really jamming. I mean, if you're familiar, it's actually a great movie with Anthony Quinn. But with that said, I think that that's probably what I would do, especially now, just because, of my family being so geared, like my dad's family, German and Irish, it's like, take any drinking song you want and let's, some sort of beer chant or something that, if I was honoring that side of my family. But on the Greek side of the family, I think I actually would go with the theme, the real jam part of Zorba the Greek. I think that's what I would do.
Love it. I think it goes nicely with you. Hopefully, you'll score a few games for the Red Wings.
Oh yeah,
right, and finally,
what? I'll say this. I had a conversation with Steve Eisman. We were kind of joking around, and he asked me, the Red Wings were having a bad stretch, and he asked me if I had my skates, and I said to him, I said, if you decide to come back, I will definitely find some skates as long as I'm on your line. And then he kind of made a little bit of a snide remark that I would have to be in the front. I'd have to have net front presence in the power play so he could bounce the puck off my belly. So when he was shooting, so I think that would be kind of cool. I think that'd be kind of funny. I would give anything to be on a line with Steve Yzerman, by the way. But unfortunately, that's not going to happen.
Hopefully someday, I'm sure you'll be scoring a lot of goals with him off your belly or whatever it may be, off your stick, hopefully. All right, and finally, the Red Wings posted on social media to you fans. What is your first memory as a Red Wings fan? So we got a lot of good responses. Let's check them out that the fans submitted on Twitter. People were saying everything from seeing Nick Lidstrom to seeing Steve Yzerman play to seeing their first Red Wings game in person, losing a front tooth, had a butterfly bandage on his eyebrow because of a cut. D-Max saw him, Olympia Stadium, 6 or 7 years old, and here in Paul Woods. I mean, that's just amazing to see and remember those first memories you have as a Red Wings fan. And Art, Daniela, what about you guys? Daniela, I want to hear yours first.
My first memory as a Red Wings fan, it is the O2 Cup, I think. In 97 and 98, I think Carly and I say this every time just to remind everybody how old they are. We were very young for the 97 and 98 Cup. So I vividly remember the 02 season, and I had a Brendan Shanahan jersey that was like down to my ankles. It was so big on me, but I used to wear it for every single game. So my first real vivid memory is them hoisting that cup in 02.
All right, how about you?
Well, my first awareness of the Red Wings came by watching a snowy black and white little TV, because at one time, I'm not sure, but Red Wing games, they used to pick up, I don't know if it was Channel 9 or Channel 50, somewhere like in the second period or something, they would start showing the game. And I can remember watching the games with my mother and my Uncle Jack, my dad's brother. They were like the hockey fans in my family. So I can remember, because they were so into it and so engaged and huddled around, and and the Red Wings were very, very good team back in for a long time. I don't remember this like in the 50s or something, but even in the early 60s, they were still pretty good until the Darkness with Harkness era started. So I think that was really my first real memory of the Red Wings, was watching, huddled around a little, and I mean small black and white TV. I'm not talking about, these gigantic, 85-inch screens they have today. This was like, maybe 15 inches at the most, 10 inches, and huddled around them. And the reason is because I could not believe just how engrossed my uncle and my mom were in this Red Wing game, much like my dad and his other brother, Uncle Arthur, Uncle Junior, as we called him, how they would be engrossed anytime Michigan played football. When Michigan was playing football, I can barely remember like the 64-65 Rose Bowl where they played Oregon State. I mean, my dad and Uncle Junior, they were just glued to the TV. So when you're a little kid, I kind of remember those moments, because not that they were like boring people, but they were a little bit out of character. Once a team that they followed and they were really into, I can just remember how different and how into it that they really, really were. So that's what I would say. My first Red Wing game was at Olympia, Sunday night, against the Pittsburgh Penguins. I was a little boy for my birthday. My Uncle Jack, surprise, took me to this game because that was my birthday gift from Uncle Jack. And I love the Penguins back then. I thought Penguins were cool. I was a little boy. I thought Penguins were cool, but I liked Pittsburgh's original uniform. I liked that baby blue. As a matter of fact, if I were to open up this closet door behind me, I had that Pittsburgh jersey. I had that blue and with the penguin and all that kind of stuff. That was my first Red Wing game ever. It was a long, long time ago. It's against the Penguins, and the Red Wings won.
Wow. You have a vivid memory. Like, I don't remember my first Red Wings game. Like, I don't know if I was just too young, but you remember everything. But on what Danielle was saying, to repeat her, that's what I remember, the 02 Stanley Cup Finals, watching it at home with my entire family. Like, those are such good memories to have, to bring the family together, friends, family, uncles, whoever it may be. And then, okay, now we're going to shift gears. Last but not least, when we were talking about that poll earlier, the Red Wings posted it on their Twitter in regards to who the best Red Wings representative was for Team USA in the Olympics. And Chris Chelios is our winner for today. I agree. I actually voted for Chris Chelios, so it is what it is. But you guys, that's all I have for you. And thanks for your questions, and I'll see you guys Tuesday.
Thank you, Carly. It's been great. And Art was actually right in the poll this time, so he's got to feel good about that one. He got killed by Dan Dickerson on Tuesday, so he's got to feel good. Thank you, Carly. We'll see you next time. A big thank you to AAA as well for presenting Let's Socialize right here on the Word on Woodward. AAA says thank you with free roadside assistance for first responders and healthcare workers fighting to defeat COVID-19. You protect us by going to work every day. Let AAA protect you on the way there and back. Art, I hope that you have another notebook ready to go for tonight, because we've got another Tigers inter-squad game that's going to be broadcast on Fox Sports Detroit. So you can sit right in front of your TV with that notebook, write it all down. We're going to see Shep, Gibby, Dan Petrie, just like a normal Tigers broadcast. I'm really excited for tonight, and that game starts at 6:30. So that's when we're going to see the squad. They're back. Baseball's back. That's going to be really exciting, Art. Oh, you
Hot
got,
dog
is that the hot
maker.
dog maker?
and notebook. I'm ready. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go. Circus
Oh,
treats.
man.
That's just great. I don't. There we are. Hot dog maker, notebook. Let's have some Tiger baseball.
If it doesn't rain, I'm gonna grill myself a hot dog tonight just because we're watching some baseball on TV. So I'm gonna do that, and I'm gonna even tweet it out so you have proof. As long as it's not raining.
All right. You know what? I mean, this rain's hanging around. It's still dark here. You know, my lighting is almost even today, just because there's no sunlight.
Yeah.
This hot dog
we're praying
maker.
for no rain.
Heavy.
Rain delays. Okay, so we're gonna watch the game tonight, 6:30, Fox Sports Detroit. Everybody, another reminder: there will be a Tigers virtual happy hour presented by Miller Lite, and that will be Monday at 6 p.m. with Dan Dickerson, Matt Shepard, and Jason Beck. They'll be previewing this 60-game schedule, and I think they're gonna have some special guests on the show. So you guys will definitely want to tune into that. The Tigers social media channels will have more information to you leading up to Monday. And we're talking about baseball being back tonight just for an inter squad game. Imagine how we're going to feel next week when baseball is actually back. The Tigers are opening their season in Cincinnati next Friday at 6:10. Home opener presented by Ballpark Brand will be Monday. Part of that home opener, we hear there is going to be a special tribute to Al Kaline, which is something that I know Tigers fans and Tigers players, everybody in the organization is going to be really excited about.
Right.
And we don't know what that is yet, but I know that we're going to be excited to see it.
Yeah, definitely. I know, number 6. I know we brought this up earlier on some password on Woodward shows. Do the Tigers wear a 6 patch or something to honor Al? Do they just do something because this is such an odd season? Hopefully we get through all 60 games, or do they wait until next year where they do Mr. Tiger justice? I would probably like to see almost a patch instead of his number, which is legendary, obviously. Maybe like a Mr. Tiger kind of patch or something like that, because obviously Al, we miss him. We all love him, and and he was definitely Mr. Tiger.
Yes, he will definitely be honored during this season. And I mean, he'll be honored by every Tiger from here in the future every year. I think you can't get enough of Al Kaline. So I think everybody will be honoring him that wears that Tigers uniform. But like we said, something special for him at the home opener on so that will be just a little over a week away, not this coming Monday, but next Monday. We'll be watching the home opener at Comerica Park. There you go. The dates are right there. Monday, 7/27. Could not think of that date on the top of my head. But thank you guys so much for tuning in to the Word on Woodward today and every Tuesday and Thursday at noon. We'll be back next Tuesday with a lot more to talk about. Some Tigers inter-squad games happening. Make sure you're watching that tonight at 6:30 on Fox Sports Detroit. Again, thank you for watching, and we'll see you on Tuesday.